It's been very interesting. And, it's most of the time we feel that we are not doing justice in the school. As a principal, I can feel that this is a great opportunity for the students to learn hand-on experience, what is being talked about in the new education policy. Shall we go to the question session?
Yes, why not? Nandini and Kushal, do you want to provide a student perspective to any of the answers I give? Please feel free to butt in. Thank you.
Sure. What 21st century skills will prove important for students in times to come, and how can schools be ready to impart these?
So I think this question takes on a completely new meaning when you look at it from the lens of COVID. The virus has changed the way the world operates. A lot of things were already changing, but it has brought on an unimaginable pace of acceleration to way things are happening around us. I feel one of the most important and probably undersung qualities that all schools, all educational institutions should provide our students is the ability, the knack, the interest and the passion for collaborating. Can you look at your co-learner and not always compete for marks, for ranks, for grades, for degrees, for jobs? If you can somehow paper over that, somehow build a structure where it becomes a mindset of abundance. There are million more opportunities today than there were in a generation ago. Why are we still looking at it as a situation of scarcity? I need a degree in computer science. Only the top 2% of students can get it, and I need to be 99 and above to get into this college. All that is a relic of the brick and mortar wall past. Today, degrees are available online from Stanford University if you really want to pay for it. Degrees are available for free from the London School of Business. In fact, Nandini just finished that course on Coursera. Yes, there was an offer. Pay $3,000 and get a degree, get a certificate also. We chose not to take it because what we were interested in was the true learning and the ability to live a life guided by the lessons we learned in that learning. So the first requirement I would say as a 21st century skill is the ability to shed our native competitive spirit and learn to collaborate. Can there be a Indo-China joint initiative to find a vaccine for the virus? If it had been there, we would have probably overcome the problem already. I regret the fact that we are finding ways to fight about the line of control and problems in our border rather than shake hands and collaborate around this virus. So that is my answer. Also, the second thing is, like you mentioned in your introduction, you didn't even finish your first line when you mentioned that you were a lifelong learner. Not many people understand what that truly means. What huge responsibility you have when you call yourself a lifelong learner, and how enviable you become when you can truly live up to that term. So being a lifelong learner is something you need to learn. You need to learn the hunger to always want more, the humility to say, I don't know enough, give me more, and actually the resignation to say what I learned yesterday is probably not good enough, let me look for something more. Because careers of the future are going to have very large learning components to them. You cannot get ready for a career and get in. You have to ready yourself for the career by getting into the career. All the best.
Thank you, sir. I would like to say that yes, when I said I'm a lifelong learner, I have just enrolled myself to a course on Indology. I wanted to learn something about the Indian culture, so I've just joined a course on that. Okay, the second question is, it is advisable to create human beings who are totally dependent on computers?
So is it okay to create, first of all, we are not creating human beings. Only God can do that. But is it okay to create human beings totally dependent on cows? Is it okay to create human beings totally dependent on the vegetation in our planet? Are we not totally dependent on a lot many things already? Okay, let us keep that away. And what is a computer? The definition of a computer is changing today. It used to be a large box in the center of the city. Then it became a decently sized box on a table in one of your rooms in the house. Then it became something that sat on your lap. Now it is something that you put in your pocket and you take even to the bathroom. So the concept of a computer, the meaning, what it stands for, is changing. I think it is okay to be totally dependent on a computer, but you also need to give enough respect to some of the things that are by definition not computerese. Empathy, for example, a sense of self, a sense of understanding of our purpose. Why are we here on this earth? These are questions that are by definition truly, that is what distinguishes the human being from the robot. So if you can develop those aspects, they call it emotional intelligence. If you can work on those aspects, do not try to fight with the computer on finding the cube root of a 10-digit number. Even Shakuntala Devi will lose to today's computers. So let's be very clear about that. But there are aspects where, because I answered the first question with collaborate instead of compete, I am bringing the same sentence here. Don't try to compete with the computer. Collaborate with it. There are things it can do amazingly well. There are things you can do much better. Learn to coexist. That's my answer.
The third question is, how effective are alternative forms of education in a mainstream job sector?
Okay, so all these questions are from students or from other attendees of this programs, or?
I think it is from the attendees.
Okay, because they seem to be traps laid for me, and I am trying to jump over them carefully. So look at this third question. How effective are alternative forms of education in the mainstream job sector? I am going to unask the question, and I am going to ask you, is the job sector mainstream anymore? So there is this guy who drives a two-wheeler, who works in a software company or who works in a bank. In the morning and in the evening for 1 hour, he does Uber Eats service on his two-wheeler. Uber Eats is delivered from the nearby South Indian restaurant to my home by this guy. How many little pieces, how many small wheels are turning around in this economy? They call it the gig economy. There are dancers who perform music, who also write programming, who are also aspiring to be speakers. No longer the old conventional idea of you prepare yourself for your career, you enter your career, you spend all your life in the career, you retire with a mala around your neck and go home and sit with a remote control in front of the TV, and then slowly 20 years later you die. That's gone. It's the gig economy today. 3.25 jobs, it seems. A typical American teenager has already done 3.25 jobs. So it is no longer a mainstream job sector, and hence alternative forms of education are no longer alternative. They are again, going back to the earlier two questions, they are not competing with mainstream forms of education. They are coexisting, they are abetting, they are learning to collaborate. People can do the mainstream education as well as continue on the side learning in their quest to become a lifelong learner. So how effective? Do not always look at it as A or B. It is A-B.
Okay. The fourth question is, there is a misconception that coding is relevant for people interested in tech or taking a career in software. How do you handle this?
So I think the question is, coding is not relevant for those not interested in tech or taking a career in software. Is that so? Is the question, I think. We talked, okay, beautiful set of questions, because I am able to weave between these questions. Go back to question number 2. Do you want to be totally dependent on something you have no control over? How do you get control over a computer? By learning to code. You don't need to be interested in technology. You don't need to be interested in a career in software. If you are interested in living well, you need to learn to code. It used to be learning, writing, arithmetic once upon a time. Today, the ability to interact meaningfully with a computer by being a power user, perhaps, by architecting, by designing, by programming, is a definite plus, irrespective of which domain you are in. By the way, my friends, if you are thinking it is the biologist, it is the pathologist, it is the chemistry, the scientist working with organic chemicals who is in the forefront of this quest for a vaccine, think again. There are a huge number of computer scientists, data analysts, who are putting together a lot of information about what they have identified by this virus's DNA, by the reaction it gives, by what kind of protein folding can be done to find an answer. They are running simulated experiments 1 million times more than what an Oxford can do by injecting 20 people every day with a vaccine. So what does the computer do? It is a magnifier of potential. Why is A.R. Rahman? I am sure most of you know him, irrespective of where you're coming from. Why is A.R. Rahman such an amazing musician? He learned how to use a computer to magnify his potential. That is what he did. So the computer is like a bicycle for your brain, they say. You can walk, you'll sweat if you start running. But using less physical force than walking, you can actually go faster than running with a bicycle. So, of course, it is a misconception to think that coding is irrelevant for people who are not interested in technology. By the way, I really regret the fact, someday I want to go back and change it. Who called it coding? I think the word by definition already has this aura of a mystery, something that is encoded, something that is not easily decipherable. Big mistake. Call it programming. Call it making a computer bend down on its knees and obey the master that you have become. Think of it like that. Today, there are amazing programming languages that fit everybody's needs. If you are a civil engineer, there is a programming language for that. If you are an artist, there is a programming language for that. If you are an artist who doesn't want to put paint on paper, but still want to create art, that's called generative art, by the way. You have a programming language for generative art. So please don't live half a life by shunning programming. Write to me. I can work with you. I can give you more guidance on what's the best programming language that will suit you. Thanks a lot.